When it comes to westerns, everyone's heard of the good, the bad, and the ugly and unforgiven, but there are some hidden gems in the genre that have flown under the radar. If you're a fan of dusty trails, gunfights, and tales of rugged heroes, here are some of the greatest westerns you've probably never seen but definitely should. A western horror hybrid, The Burrowers 2008, saw direction under T.J. Petty from his own original script. It follows an Irish rancher who gathers a group to search for his fiancée after she was dragged brutally into the night by evildoers who invaded their settlement. Once a species called Burrowers comes into play, the film seamlessly implements elements of horror that creates an underlying tension carried throughout. Off the bat, it's worth noting that Extreme Prejudice, 1987, features Nick Nolte as Ranger Jack Bentine, who's based on a real-life Texas Ranger named Joaquin Jackson. The aforementioned actor spent 3 weeks with the Ranger on which his character was based, creating a passionate performance that remains among the greatest of Nolte's career. There's no telling how Extreme Prejudice came up short across the board of success. In reality, it should be cited among the finest westerns of its decade. With Evan Rachel Wood and Edward Norton as Tobe and Harlan, respectively, Down in the Valley, 2005, is worth a watch for the dynamic of their characters alone. Its plot kicks off when they meet and form a relationship against the wishes of Tobe's father, who's played by David Morse. Meanwhile, Rory Culkin shows up as Tobe's little brother, with each performer among the cast showing up in spades. Chronicling the real-life story of Bill Miner, an American stagecoach robber, The Grey Fox, 1982, features Richard Farnsworth in the starring role. Picking up with Miner's release from prison in 1901, the story follows his escapades as a train robber after he gained inspiration from one of the first ever motion pictures, The Great Train Robbery, 1903. Considering the staggering name value among its cast led Tobey Maguire, Ride with the Devil should be considered among the most surprising bombs in the history of the box office. Directed by Ang Lee, it accrued just $635,000 against a budget of $35 million. Pretty abysmal numbers. And frankly, Ride with the Devil holds comparable name value today. Most audiences are entirely unaware of its existence. If there's one Sergio Leone western that deserves more love today, it's Duck, You Sucker, with Rod Steiger, James Coburn, and Romulo Valli. In all, the talent among the cast and crew of Duck, You Sucker should so far speak for itself. But there's also Ennio Morricone as the composer, along with Giuseppe Ruzzolini as the cinematographer. They all see a compelling plot come to critically acclaimed life, and overall Duck, You Sucker holds up wonderfully today. Written and directed by John Sayles in what may be his magnum opus, Lone Star features an impressive cast that propels the project to greatness. Starting with Chris Cooper, the plot homes in on his protagonist, a sheriff who's investigating the mysterious death of his predecessor. Other members of the cast include Chris Christopherson, Matthew McConaughey, and Frances McDormand. The plot facilitates some truly thrilling moments, with well-written dialogue and memorable performances to boot. The movie's boasting an all-star cast. Kirk Douglas appears as the lead, a cowboy named Jack Burns, while other performers like Gina Rowlands and Walter Matthau also make appearances. But Lonely Are the Brave is also notable for featuring one of the first scores from the career of Jerry Goldsmith. An American composer, he put in great work for the Western at hand, and the same can be said for all the aforementioned names. Fitting into both the revisionist and spaghetti subgenres, The Great Silence by Sergio Corbucci is perhaps the single most acclaimed Western you've never seen. It holds a 100% approval rating on critical consensus website Rotten Tomatoes. But for some reason, it carries little name value today, rarely discussed in the grand scheme of Westerns regardless of decade or director. Perhaps the most underrated Western ever made, Dead Man was written and directed by Jim Jarmusch. Like many films under his belt, this project came up shockingly short at the worldwide box office, and even then, it received middling reception from critics sans legitimate justification. The movie follows William Blake, played by Johnny Depp, a wounded man on the run. Supporting efforts are given by John Hurt, Crispin Glover, Iggy Pop, and Gabriel Byrne. Each actor herein delivers dazzling lines of deadpan dialogue, with others including Billy Bob Thornton and Alfred Molina.